Welcome back, everyone. Now we're getting into
owner financing or seller financing. We'll use those interchangeably today. My favorite, and the reason why it's my favorite is because now we get to completely avoid banks, period, because there's no debt on these properties. Typically, there's no debt on an owner financing deal. So when we're approaching sellers, we're really looking for those that are in good financial standing, have high equity in the property, which allows us to do a bunch of great things. So let's walk through this. Seller financing at its finest. I'll go through it like we did the last time, and then we'll pull it back and then go from there. So typically when we're approaching a property in seller financing, first we're going to go find this home. This property in itself is, let's just say, a 0% of a mortgage. So it is 100% equity. It's roughly a third of the properties throughout the United States are debt-free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach a seller as the investor. Again, you're going to always be in the middle of all this as the investor. You're going to go ahead and approach a seller, and you're going to go ahead and put together a purchase and sale agreement. So we're actually going to close on this. Title is going to transfer with the seller financing deal, and we're going to agree to a couple different things. So let's walk through this. So you're going to close on this property. You're going to agree to a purchase price on the property. You're going to agree to a monthly payment typically. So these monthly payments can come in various different ways. So with a monthly payment, it could be a 0% interest rate. It could be, so that'd be principal only payments. It could have an interest rate. These are the terms we're going to start working through. So each and every one of the terms that I'm talking about here can be applied or cannot be applied as well. Because there could be a down payment involved. A lot of the deals we do don't have down payments. There could be an interest rate. There could be an amortization schedule. But at the end of the day, the best part about this entire process is that we are completely eliminating banks. So what we're really able to do is create the terms of the agreement with the seller. That's what I mean by you have almost unlimited ways in order to structure these types of deals, because now we can go ahead and put together the terms of the agreement that work best for you. So just give me some examples. So you agree upon a purchase price. We agree upon a monthly payment, which could consist of interest rate or not. We could agree upon a down payment. There could be an amortization schedule. There could not be. At the end of the day, this is about solving somebody's problem. So let's talk about the sellers that would do this. Typically, they're sellers that are in good financial standing, sellers that are interested in maximizing the profit on their home, are interested in estate or tax planning purposes. And really, at the end of the day, is we are solving a real estate problem, not a financial problem, a real estate problem, because the seller right now has something that a piece of real estate that is almost like a liability in some cases. So some of these properties are inherited, and now the inheritance are sitting there, they're saying, oh my God, now I have to go ahead and pay the taxes. I have to keep up the lawn. I maintain the property. They don't see, as investors do, like, oh, this is a great asset. I want to go ahead and purchase this property.
Yep.
So once we're able to solve that problem, we then go ahead and do the exact same thing as we did on the lease option. If you're going to go ahead and exit through rent to own, again, this can also be used in a long-term strategy as well. So I'm just going to kind of write this as this is your buyer or your exit, because now once you have ownership of this property, you then can go ahead and we typically will sell it to a rent-to-own buyer, which means that we'll go ahead and put together an agreement that has a new purchase price, has a higher monthly payment, has a shorter time frame. But you can also do a couple other different things, right? You can sell it rent-to-own because you have ownership, you have title, you get depreciation, you're the one that gets the tax benefits of ownership. You also have the ability to go rent it if you want to. You can go ahead and create a new mortgage, which I don't think we have enough time to go into wrap mortgages, but you go ahead and sell it on owner financing as well. So the best part about this is what's happening is you're going to go ahead and create the agreement with the seller, buy it off market, not have to personally guarantee debt, not have to go to a bank, own the property, and now go ahead and figure out what your exit's going to be there as well.
Which is amazing.
Yes.
So this is incredible for buyers and sellers. I mean, so a seller, this is one of the biggest benefits is that they can make that interest, right? Instead of a bank, which is the coolest thing ever, right?
Yeah.
And typically if someone's offering you seller financing, you're paying premium price for that asset.
Sometimes. Yeah.
But like what they want, right?
Yeah.
Like you, most of the time you'll ask them and say, hey, like what's your number, right? And then they can work the deal with you with interest rate and whatever else it may be.
Yeah, because as always, we're trying to solve a problem here. So give you an example of a property that we bought. So we bought a property that was right outside of University of Connecticut. This guy, and the interesting part was, this guy was on the market multiple times, wasn't able to sell. Where the property is located, it was rural, and you either you went to school or you kind of didn't, and he was relocating. And we approached him 12 months earlier than we got the deal done because we went ahead and created this terms of the agreement. It was, I think we bought the property, just so you can kind of see what the terms were. Not exact. So if you go on our YouTube channel and you look up this deal structure and these terms aren't exactly the same, then I just don't have them exactly in my head. So let's talk about the terms of this deal. So we bought it for roughly $500,000. What we did is for our down payment, we just paid closing costs. So closing costs in the state of Connecticut are 0.0125, I believe, on the property. We then structured a principal only payment of about $1,500 a month. So this is a 0% or principal only monthly payment. And we originally had a 48-month balloon.
So after 48 months.
After 48 months, we had to pay
the full amount.
The rest of what we didn't already. So this $1,500 was coming directly off of the $500 mortgage.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is, so in this structure, right, because the property is closing and coming into your name, the seller is becoming your bank, right? So what's happening is you're owning the property. So this is your LLC that owns it. And now we're creating a mortgage with the seller. Property's debt-free. The seller now is holding a mortgage against the house. And the mortgage will say, all right, so we have a promissory note of, we have $500,000 that we have to pay the seller. We're promising to pay the seller. And in the meantime, we're going to pay $1,500 a month. That's going to go directly off the principal of the balance. So 0% interest. And we have agreed to the terms that we're going to pay off the remaining balance. So the $1,500 times 48 months, we're going to take that off, and we're just going to have to pay off the remaining balance in 48 months. Because of this structure, our natural exit is going to be rent to own. Because we have a 48-month term, natural is going to be rent to own. If it was, say we had 10 years, well then now you can do rent, you can own or finance somebody. But because of the short time frame, we needed to go ahead and sell it rent to own. So this is the terms of the agreement. So we were able to put that deal together, went ahead and sold it to an end buyer. I think the profits on it were about $130,000 on it. And that was because when we went ahead and we sold it to a rent to own buyer, we sold it probably at like $525, $20, or probably $2,000 a month. And a 36-month term. So the money was flowing to us, and then we were paying the note.
Which is awesome. So you're making the spread on the difference between the purchase prices.
Yep.
The cash flow.
Yep. Let's walk through the paydays. So on this type of structure, right? So you have, if you're selling rent to own, you have the property that you purchased. So you have the agreement with the seller, right? So you have an agreement with the seller. You're in the middle. Then you have the buyer. So here's your agreement with the seller. You're going ahead and you're purchasing it directly from the seller, and now you're going to sell to an end buyer that needs time in order to qualify for loan. Because you have a purchase price with the seller, you're going to sell it at a higher price to a buyer. You're going to have a monthly payment, and you're going to sell it at a higher monthly payment to a buyer. And then you have a time frame, and then you have it's going to be a shorter time frame to the buyer. So with that, your payday number one you're going to go ahead and, in order to place a buyer in the house, you're going to need to collect a large non-refundable deposit. So that's typically 3 to 10% of the purchase price. So that's your payday 1 is the deposit. Your payday 2 then is going to be your cash flow. So the difference between what you're having to pay the seller and what you're collecting from your buyer, right? Because the responsibility flows to the buyer and the money flows back through you to the seller. So that's your cash flow. And then your payday 3 is going to be the wealth that's being built in the property. So that is the premium price, and that's the principal pay down that's happening throughout the time frame as well. So that is that's the back end profits or the wealth that's being built in this house for when this buyer goes and gets their own loan and they pay you off, and then you pay off the promissory note from the seller. Here, I'll give you guys let's dig in further. So I'm going to give you a rule of thumb here. This is a rule of thumb. All right, not 100%, but a rule of thumb. If you're able to go ahead and purchase a property, so if you can purchase a property for $199,000 or higher via owner financing, this is strictly for owner financing. If you can get a $900 a month payment or higher, that is 0% interest, and you can get a 48-month balloon or higher, and you sell it on rent to own, you have a 6-figure deal.
Wild.
It's I've looked past. We've looked through all the deals we've done in the past 10 years via owner financing, and every single one that we sold rent to own as a 6-figure deal if these numbers match up.
Which is insane. Like, that's such a win-win for the seller and then also for the buyer. That peanut butter jelly is that magic in the middle.
I thought you guys start singing the peanut butter jelly song.
Yeah, it's such a great way to remember it, you know, to like, because like for me, I'm like, how do I process like all of the transaction, the structure that happens within it, right? And it's like, it's a perfect way to do it. It's like you got a loaf of bread on this side, a loaf of bread on this side. You make the magic happen in the middle. Gotta have both sides, otherwise the sandwich won't work. You're gonna get sticky.
I'll have to come with code words like turkey sandwiches, owner financing, peanut butter and jelly lease options.
I love it.
Salami sandwiches, your subject twos.
Those sound like the least favorite. I know, and everybody's all into sub 2 now. Everyone's like, ooh, let's talk about sub 2s. Hey, they're great. I mean, if the seller has favorable terms.
Oh, that's the reality is right now, and we should do this in the next module because we're talking about what favorable terms look like.
Yes. All right. So sub 2's coming in the next one, guys.